Many of the academic honors at Regis today have roots that go all the way back to the early days of the school. During the time of the class of 1941, Regis operated on a 2-semester academic year, with each semester comprised of 3 marking periods. At the end of each 6-week marking period, Regis would convene an assembly called the Reading of the Marks to announce academic achievements. Students who attained scores of 90 or better in every subject during the marking period were presented with an honor card and entered into the honor roll. 90% and above were scores that were considered excellent. Approximately 5% of the class of 1941 would attain this honor award each marking period. The next award threshold was 85% in all subjects, with 85 to 89% being deemed praiseworthy or above average. Those boys would go onto the merit list and receive the creatively named merit card. An estimated 20% of each class would enter the merit list after each marking period. As context, 80 to 84% was considered good or average, 75 to 79% passing but in danger of failure, and below 75% the dreaded failure. Finally, at the end of each year, General Excellence Awards would be presented to 16 boys. At the time, there were also different tiers of General Excellence. There was also an equivalent prize just for mathematics. By the time the boys completed their junior year, they likely already had a clear idea of who amongst their grade were the strongest students. Within the class of 1941, several would stand out. Alex Mazzia, whose involvement in numerous extracurriculars at Regis was one whose name showed up on honor and merit lists consistently. The always helpful George Better of the stage crew was not an early standout, but would steadily progress over the years to be academically accomplished by the time he became an upperclassman. Purely in terms of academics, Robert Johann was nearly always at the very top. Robert was considered brilliant and held in esteem by his peers. He was that kid who never scored below 97 on a test, and if he did, it became newsworthy. The middle of 3 children, Robert grew up in the Williamsbridge suburb of the Bronx. His father was a real estate executive, and the family was relatively better off than most of that class. At school, he would be an accomplished writer, linguist, and debater, but also played an active role in the sodality as an altar server. Regis was the ideal school for Robert. Not only did he have a deep scholarly drive, but also a desire to discover the spiritual side of human nature and his faith, a combination that would distinguish him not just at Regis, but also later in life. Another top student in the class of 1941 was John Beccari. Also from the Bronx, John's father was an Italian migrant who managed a chain of photography stores in New York. As an only child who was able to manage his studies well, John devoted much of his energies in a whole variety of activities at Regis. He competed in varsity swimming and played golf. He was also a core member of the Hearn, and his attention to detail led him to the role of business manager in various Regis publications. At Regis, many of the academically driven students were often found in the library. It was the regular haunt for not just obtaining the latest books and news, but also doing work. The role of student librarians was not merely administrative in nature. They had to be knowledgeable of different subjects and ideas. Regis librarians then were typically led by juniors who would organize underclassmen. Joseph Vitanza was another accomplished student who was considered cerebral yet fun-loving. His parents were Italian migrants who had settled in New York by way of Ohio, where Joe was born. Joseph had a love for books and was a committed member of the library, as well as Regis's 2 main publications then, The Owl and the Regis Quarterly. His experience at Regis must have been a transformative one, as he would remain devoted to the school the rest of his life and would one day play a meaningful role at Regis many decades later.